Hey, 3D modeling class. It's week 3, so hopefully you enjoyed a week off already at the start of the semester here. Um, and also, hopefully you completed your quick model 1, which was to just spend 15 minutes and get as far as you could modeling a laptop. That was your first quick model. You also sort of ongoing have a capital A assignment, which is to model a character. And all you really needed to do over this first couple weeks was just think about what you might be interested in creating. Today, during the lecture, we're going to talk about a couple of different methods for creating your character. And then we're also going to talk about one method for creating hair. Next week, we're going to talk about another method for creating hair, which is actually like using hair particles and stuff like that. So we're actually going to start putting together your character today. And finally, you also will have another quick model to do this week. So again, the quick model is just something to take a break from what we're doing, get a little bit of practice in, and don't take longer, or you shouldn't take more than 15 minutes to complete that. Okay, let's open up Blender. Also, as you can tell, I am not at my home computer today. So, and I don't have my keystroke shortcut thing on this computer, so I'm going to do my best to call out the keystrokes I'm using. So please forgive me. Okay, very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. I opened up a new thing and I'm going to save it right away and make sure I've got my autosave setting set. So I'm just going to put this, where should I put this? Let's put it on the desktop. This is going to be my character. Or like assignment 1, we'll call this. No, let's save my file. Save it. And I'm also, because this isn't my usual computer, I'm going to double check my preferences and go to save and load and verify that, yes, I will have 5 save versions and saving every 10 minutes. So that's saving 50 minutes of work at 10-minute increments, which will work for me. So everything I'm about to show you is like what you choose to do is very dependent on like the style that you're going to go for. So I think kind of what I'll spend more time instructing and teaching on is like the kind of a very detailed character model, because this is the modeling class. So we're going to spend like more time talking about the modeling tools and techniques. If you are wanting to create a character that is less detailed and for the purposes of like animation or you know, a game engine or something like that, we'll still cover that, and you are welcome to create a less detailed character. Part of what I'm going to talk about in a couple weeks is retopology. So that would be if you have a really highly detailed character model, you know, that you've sculpted and has like, you know, potentially 100,000 or more polygons. Well, I'll walk you through the process of retopology, which is something that that happens all the time in the industry, especially with like characters in like Pixar movies and games and stuff, that they'll start with a really detailed model and then they go through a kind of painstaking process to remodel it with, you know, quads, and I'll show you how to do that. But you know, so it's kind of have a little bit longer view here as you're starting your character, and of course it's also okay to like start over or like redo things and stuff like that. So first method is going to be the not detailed method, but this is sort of the like simple method to create a character. And I am going to start with my cube here. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to do my front view like this, and I'm going to use the mirror modifier. So it is important to model your character in a T-pose, and you can see my arms are being cropped here. T-pose, you know, fingers out, legs not touching, because when you do like we will be doing like the remesh function, which sort of like changes the surface of your mesh. And if things are too close, like let's say the arms are down like this, and you do a remesh, like it's gonna like basically connect like the armpit. It's gonna close in the armpit, and it's gonna become one thing. So it's important to put space between things that need to be like to move independently. Because, you know, like very often you'll, even if you make a really highly detailed character, you'll probably still want to like put an armature in it, not necessarily to like animate and do lots of animation, but just so that you can move it and pose it and, you know, like do renders. So like, you know, you model it like this, and then it's like, okay, now I want it to be like, you know, I don't know, superhero pose or something like that. So it's, we always model in a T pose. There's also an A pose, which is, you know, like not quite as dramatic, but T pose. So like arms straight out the side, fingers, you know, hands extended, fingers extended, you know, legs straight. Because that gives us the most range of movement with the limbs, and you know, mitigates some of the danger of like having the armpits or the fingers like become webbed. The other thing too, maybe you are creating a character that is not at all, like doesn't have arms or legs. Then you just kind of got to go with the flow. You got to experiment a little bit. But like think about if like if you're making some sort of like Cthulhu monster with like tentacles, just make sure that the tentacles are, you know, spread apart. Things that shouldn't be like connected need to be sort of splayed out as such. Anything else I was going to say about crazy monsters? Oh, and the other thing too, like if a character is symmetrical, you know, like if they have the same arm, you know, appendages on each side, save yourself some time by using the mirror modifier for this particular method. Okay, so I am just gonna like put together a super quick like humanoid. It's gonna be very crude, and you'll start to learn that like no one isn't that great at 3D modeling. So what business does he even have teaching this to you? Okay, here we go. It's because I'm doing it quickly just to show you. Okay, so how I start with the mirror modifiers, I just got a cube, you know. Tab for edit mode. Control R for loop cut. I want to cut a loop right down the center, and I don't want it to slide at all, so I'm going to right click so that it stays right in the middle. I'm going to turn on my X-ray select up here, turn that on, and then I'm going to do 3 on my top row of numbers for face select. I'm going to select all the ones on the left, delete key to delete these faces, and then tab to get back into object mode. Then I go over to my modifiers tab. I'm going to add the mirror modifier. So I'm going to search for mirror and hit enter, and now I'm mirroring on across the x-axis or in the x-axis direction. Final step, which is an important one, which is to turn on clipping. And I'll talk about when you want clipping on versus off. So here we go. Start modeling. And it's okay if we turn off X-ray select now. Tab it to get into edit mode. Edit mode. A, and then I'm going to go SY to scale on the Y. So this is going to be sort of, you know, the torso, I suppose. I'm just going to like add a couple of loop cuts as I go. Right click, so that's in the middle. Just because as you're modeling, you want to, I kind of talked about this in our week 1 lecture, but you want to try to keep polygons of similar size. And not too stretched out, not too skinny. Don't like bunch up together. You want to kind of keep them sort of squarish or like not too crazy of a rectangle. And I'm gonna do like a very broad general shaping first, and then maybe I'll start to kind of add detail as I go. So I'm in edit mode. 3 for face select. So if this is sort of like my chest and this is sort of my tummy here. Tummy, can you tell I'm a dad? I have small kids. I'm gonna do another smaller one that is sort of like the shoulder. So I'm gonna go E extrude up like this. And one thing to note is because clipping is on, if I hit 1 for vertex select, these vertexes in the center are always like connected. I can't pull this apart to the right. So this is keeping it whole. The other thing that this is doing is if I actually zoom inside here, we can see that it's, you know, it's not creating like a slice down the center. If clipping was off, and I'll show that to you in a second, there'd be like a polygon through the center of this because it's not kind of connecting it as one piece. It's sort of like putting 2 together right next to each other rather than having one piece like this, if that makes any sense. Okay. Now, where am I? get out of here. So this is like my shoulder here. So I'm just gonna, now I'm gonna go 3 for face select. I'm gonna extrude out here. And maybe I consider this to be sort of like just like the collarbone. Maybe this part would be like a shoulder. I'm going to e-extrude. This is going to go to the elbow here. This is, and then e-extrude one more time. And that is, you know, to the wrist, e-extrude one more time. This is going to be the hand. Obviously, like the proportions are way off, and I'm just sort of starting to block things off here. What do we do here? I'm going to, so this is, I'm going to try to like make the neck a little bit. So we have to kind of cinch this in a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extrude just a tiny bit, e-extrude like this, and then I'm going to S to scale it way down to kind of make our neck here. And then I'm maybe going to go 2 for edge select, and I'm going to GX, move this in like that. So there's our little neck. And then 3 for face select, e-extrude. Here it is again. And then there's our little neck. Now we got to come out a little bit, e-extrude again, but then S to scale this out. And then e-extrude, you know, e-extrude here like this, and that's the top of the head, scale that down. Okay. Again, proportions way wrong, but I'm just starting to block things off a little bit. Okay, so this is like our tummy. Let me do one more that's going to be like hips like this. I'm going to e-extrude one more time. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off clipping because I need separate legs, you know? So let me just show you. So like if I'm inside here, we can see it's like one hollow empty thing. I'm going to turn off clipping. Uncheck the clipping box. And so now if I e-extrude again like this, let's, you know, it looks like it's done the same thing, but if I go inside, you can see now there's, whoops, I mean, you can see it here. It kind of created this like, there's polygons in the center here. That's because now with clipping off, I can G grab this and it's separate. It's 2 pieces. So this is how we're going to kind of, you know, make our legs. And, you know, okay, so this is going to be, this is like the butt maybe, and then this is, whoops, and then let me e-extrude again. This is going to be kind of to the knee, and then e-extrude again, and this is, you know, like to the foot, and then let's probably do a Control R loop cut here like this, and then this will be the foot here like this. So cut there, 3 for face select, e-extrude. There's the foot. Okay, there's our person. Okay, let's clean this up a little bit. So we've set ourselves up pretty nicely for you know, having like nothing's too long or stretched out or, you know, awkward like this. So I suppose the next step would be, well, and I should say I should have backed way up. Use reference images. I'm just sort of like doing this like freewheel, which is not necessarily the best idea because if you look at this, like this looks weird. Like the proportions, sorry, the proportions are off for this. So what I might do, and actually maybe what I'll do right now is I just need to find an image of like a person in a T-pose and then just sort of trace a little bit. All right, so I went to the, you know, the image search machine and I'm gonna add a reference image in here now. So go back to object mode. Tab object mode, and then I'm going to go Shift A, and I'm going to go to image and open a reference image. And it's on my desktop, and it's called, it's my work computer. I got a lot of stuff in here. T-pose, there it is. Add empty image, drop image, etc. Okay, there it is. So it's Captain Falcon. There we go. So I'm just going to try to line it up a little bit. Okay, so let me go GZ, whoops, GY is the way I want this to go. And then I'm going to turn on X-ray like this so that we can kind of start to trace over it. So let me go back to object mode. I have the cube selected. I'm going to go tab for edit mode like this. And then I'm just going to start to move things around a little bit. So I'm going to do 1 for vertex select, and I'm just going to kind of start to move these a little bit. So actually I'll move all of these. I'm just going to go G. Oh, but now check it out. Clipping is off. I need to turn clipping back on because I want all these to be stuck together. Right click to undo that. Actually, let me undo a couple more times just to make sure that there we go, okay. You have no idea how many times I've been burned by turning the clipping on and off. So be super careful with that with the mirror modifier. So clipping is on. Now I can kind of safely move all these things. So I'm gonna go G, this up a little bit. Let's see, kind of move this sort of here like this. These one, oh, I need one for face select, or one for vertex select. So I'm just going to kind of try to start to make the overall shape. He's got some big shoulders, like this. He's got pretty big arms too, so that's going to be where the elbow is here, like this. Wrist is right here, and then hand kind of goes out to here. The hand sort of tapers like this. Okay, now let's see. Let me start to line up these a little bit better. These are like the hips here, hips kind of wide, and then knees are right about here. His knees are also kind of like strangely beefy, and then you know, this, and then the foot kind of comes out at an angle like this. So I'll need to just like adjust this from the side as well, but and my neck is in kind of a bad spot too. So I think really this should be here. This goes here. Neck needs to be down here like this. Head kind of comes a little wider like that. Top of the head there. Okay, so let's see how this looks. Yeah, it's starting to look like a little bit more proportional. I'm gonna hide this real quick. I'm gonna start to work on kind of the top-down view of this a little bit. So again, this is me sort of like guessing a little bit, but you know, just kind of start to get things into place. I'm not gonna spend too much time on this because you know you can do these like from here you kind of know what to do. So let's see, like the other helpful thing that you can do rather than like trying to like move individual pieces together, it's helpful to use the scale tool. So like if you have two vertexes selected, you can go S and just kind of move them closer together like this, which can be handy. So like here, you know, like these ones on the side, you know, we don't want it to be quite as boxy, so we can kind of S. So if you have 4 selected, it's going to shrink them together. So make sure to like signal which axes you want to do. So this would be SY to just kind of move these closer together. Same here at the knee like this. Now here's the other thing. Because, you know, it's pretty boxy right now because, you know, each limb only has 4 sides. It's literally, you know, a box. This might be a good time to like do a loop cut along the side. So this can give us just a little bit more control. So if I do Control R like this, I can do a loop cut straight along the side, and that will allow me to start to make things a little bit more rounded. So, you know, this is where kind of the artsiness and the tedium begins. So I'm going to scale this down, and I'm also going to go GZ to kind of move this down a little bit here. I'm just going to select these ones around the outside here. I can scale these down a little bit just to make it a little bit more rounded. I'll do the same thing here. I'll grab these 4 around the outside, but leave the 2 on the top and bottom and scale these down just to make it a little bit more rounded. Great. Same thing with the head here. Like, let's see. The head is super boxy right now. The head needs some attention. But yeah, like what is that? Scale these down. G, kind of move these in a little bit. If that's supposed to be like the chin, so these definitely need to come down. I'm going to go G, Z. This is supposed to be the chin, so let's just move this down. These down a little bit. There we go. That's starting to look a little bit more normal. What's going on in the back here? Yep, this is a problem. Okay. I'm gonna just like briefly do the legs and then we'll call that good. So let's see. You know, we want the knees to kind of come forward a little bit, just kind of start to scale down a little bit. Maybe the butt comes out a little bit like this. Same thing with like the torso. We've got that cut around the side now, so that's helpful. So I'm going to scale this down and maybe kind of bring this in a little bit, just so it starts to look a little bit more normal. Maybe the chest puffs out a little bit. I'm going to grab the front of the chest here like this. These are definitely sticking out too far. That doesn't feel very good. This one could come in too. You know, if I wanted to really do individual fingers, you know, there'd be a series of cuts in here that we can do. You know, maybe I'll also do a cut this way around the foot just to give me a little bit more more interesting of a foot situation. So let me, let me do my side view. Just grab these 2 and scale those down a little bit. S to scale, you know, start to make it a little bit more rounded. Heel comes in a little bit. Obviously, if I go SY like that, G to move these in. The feet are still ginormous. I think I need to scale all this way down. So just go S to scale down like this. Okay. I'm gonna call that good. Turn off X-ray select. So you know, I spent 12 minutes on this. You will spend more time on your character if you choose to go this method. Once the shape kind of gets to be in the place you want it to be, so that like this is the point where you need to get the shape, you know, feeling good, because once you start to add more details, once you start to add, you know, more cuts and more polygons and things like that, it gets harder and harder to kind of make big changes like that. So it's important to kind of block things out, and you know, like maybe save this, or maybe even do like save a copy, so that you can like always come back to this. So like this could be like, you know, assignment 1, like part 1 or something like that, _1, and then you continue to work on this save file. And you know, you have your backups and things like that, but you always kind of have this starting point, because you know, the further along you get, the harder it is to kind of make big sweeping changes. Oh, and why is this disconnected is what I want to know. What happened here? Are all of these like that? Did I like do something twice here? That's not good. My sweet Valentine. You guys like Foo Fighters? Yeah, this is all disconnected here. So if I select these, why don't I turn on auto merge vertices like this? Here's something you could do. Here's a tip. If you have two vertices that are disconnected like this, let's see. If you do right click, you can do merge vertices, you know, add center like this, and it'll just connect them together. I don't know why that particular, oh, and here, look at that. So let me do this too. I'm gonna move them a little bit and then just select these two, right click, merge at center. Is this one gonna do it too? Because that is interesting, because that's right where I started to do the clipping thing. So let me turn clipping off real quick. This, select this one, right click, merge at center. Here's another tip. Clipping is going to be on. I'm going to Shift C. Nope, it's Shift S. There we go. I'm going to put the 3D cursor on my selection there. Nope, undo. What did I do? Shift S. Sorry, cursor to selected. There we go. And then I'm going to grab this one as well, and then I'm going to go right click, merge vertices at cursor. And then with clipping on, okay, that is saved. I'm gonna do the same thing here. Just trying to save that, like, check for these kind of things, because like if I had continued to like go further and further down this path and like making more loop cuts, stuff like this would have been a problem for me. So I've got these two selected. I'm gonna do right click, merge at center. There we go. Crisis averted. Have to make this a little bit more round, make them a little more lean. Spending too much time in this because I want to move on, you guys. I want this one. Oh, are these in the back going to be bad too? Maybe. And then this should actually come way in. X-ray select. These should come way in like that. Okay. You get it. Sometimes I just can't help myself. So, okay, let's say I had things blocked off. Like, finally, you could leave it like this, but if you're wanting to deform it, you do need like a little bit more to work with. Like, because when you deform like an arm or something like that, it's only going to move existing vertices. So, like, if you want this arm to bend, you know, at the elbow, it's gonna look weird, because it's just like if I X-ray select, it's just gonna do this, you know, like. You know, like, and it'll get really skinny like that. So actually, you know, that can look fine, but it has to be set up in a nice way. So what your goal should be, if you were to do this method, would be start to add more loop cuts, like this. Just kind of gently add like a little bit more detail. Control R, adding loop cuts here, like this. Add another one here, kind of space things out. Maybe add one across here like this. Probably need another one like down the front here, just to give yourself a little bit more. I'm gonna add another one here. Move these up a little bit, and then you just kind of slowly, whoops, not hide, undo. The G and the H key being so close to each other is not good for me. And again, like I'd say like this is good. Up here, maybe add a couple more down here, kind of scale them up, scale them down, do whatever. Grab these ones, scale them up, scale them down, whatever you need to do. But that like this maybe a couple more down here. This is an acceptable amount of geometry as like a starting point. This gives you enough to work with. And then if you really wanted to, the nice thing about using a subdivision surface when you have like nice mesh to begin with is that it's super easy to use. So we can add subdivision surface modifier like this, and it like is already bisecting things nicely. You do a shade smooth. Okay. So this is the what I'll call the modeling method. This is how you could model a character just by using a mirror modifier, extrude, stuff like that, so that it's one solid chunk. But this doesn't quite give you like the detail that you may want if you're doing a really highly detailed character. So I'm gonna hide this. Now, I think I started to say this earlier, but like with the sculpting method, like even with like Pixar and the crazy and video games and stuff like that, a lot of times they'll have character models or character model and character modelers, people who model characters, will make a really highly detailed version of a character first as like concept art, and then they'll, if they like it, they'll do the retopology and then make it kind of a lower poly version. So like even like think of your favorite Disney Pixar 3D animated thing, that character model that they use to animate only has a couple thousand polygons, and you'll see now when we do this, we're gonna have way more than that. Okay, so I'm gonna make an ogre. I found one thing tangent, to reset your 3D cursor so things are appearing in the middle of your world space. Shift C will reset that. Okay, Shift A, I'm gonna add a reference image. I found another reference image of an ogre. I'm gonna make an ogre. Oops, and I should do my front view first. Shift A, image reference ogre. Use a reference image. This is actually another great use of AI. That if you sort of have like a general idea of like, oh, I want to make something like this. I don't know exactly what it looks like, and I'm not a great artist, or like I can't draw something on a piece of paper and take a picture of it and upload it. That's an option too. But you can just use your favorite free AI image generator and say like, yeah, give me an ogre that's green and has like a big belly and whatever. And it can give you something to go off of. I'm not gonna like model this exactly, but we'll do my best. I'm just using it as inspiration. Okay, so the sculpt method. Here's how we do it. Call this like ogre. I should be naming things. Okay, so I'm just going to use primitive shapes to kind of block out the general like essence of this person, this creature. So I'm going to Shift A. Lots of UV spheres are going to be happening here. So G. I'm going to do my best to kind of try to keep things in the center as well. And maybe I even like, no, I think that's fine. And like, I'm just gonna sort of get the general like shape. I think I am repeating myself now. So like, big round ball in the center, great. I'm gonna Shift D to duplicate this and go Z up like this. Maybe scale this down a little bit. And then maybe I'll do like, maybe I'll go SY to kind of scale this down a little bit, and SX to scale it apart like this. I'm gonna do my side view. Kind of R rotate this way a little bit. just so that we're kind of getting, if I go SX, these are like the shoulders a little bit. And my belly needs to be a little bit bigger. Z. I'm making sure to keep it in the center because I do want it to be pretty symmetrical. Okay. Next is going to be like the head. So we maybe even need just like another sphere. So I'm going to Shift D the sphere and kind of scale it down like this. Ogres like don't have a lot of range of motion in their necks, I don't think. So this, let me go G, move it up like this, Z. Maybe you know, what does an ogre head look like? Oh, that's probably fine. So I'm just using spheres, you know. The next thing would be you know, arms. So this I have to get like a little bit creative with how I'm going to do the symmetry with this. So I'm gonna duplicate this. I'm gonna Shift D and I'm gonna move it, kind of rotate it like this. And then like right now I'm gonna add a mirror modifier like this. So on this one I'm gonna add the mirror modifier, and I'm gonna say mirror over like just this sphere like that. Mirror over the sphere, because I know that one's in the center. So if I move this one and scale this one, it's gonna kind of move relative to it. SZ. Actually, I want to change this to be local transform, so I can go SZ, so it'll kind of move like this. It's going to be sort of my arms. And actually, I should try to keep it in a T-pose. So I'm just going to try to get the proportions right and then set it up in a T-pose like this. And then I'm going to duplicate this, Shift D this one, because I know it already has the mirror modifier on it like that. Maybe scale this down. And then Shift D one more time, and this will be like the fist. Maybe I'll worry about fingers later. So I'll go SX to scale it like this. This will be kind of the fist. Okay, and this one down here, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna duplicate this one because this will be kind of my leg here like this. Maybe I'll go SX. I'm keeping, the reason I'm remembering that I'm rotating SIF, so I know that the X is gonna do it this way. That's because of the local transform like this. You'll figure out which method works for you. So I'll need to kind of work on this a little bit from the side angle because this is going to be like the legs. And I'm going to Shift D, duplicate this because he's got short stubby legs like that. It's going to be kind of the knee. Let's see, I think this also needs a SY. Maybe GY like this. So the belly sort of needs to stick out in front. And then let's see, let's do our front view again. This sort of needs to, oh, my lights are dimming. Got those automatic lights at my office. There we go. And then maybe scale this down a little bit. And then we just need like a foot. So I'm going to Shift D and R rotate this, and then SZ squish it down so it's like a foot. There we go. It's kind of looking like an ogre, you know? I don't know. And then maybe, you know, for fun, I'll just also add like, use these. And so I'm just using spheres just because, I don't know, it's kind of the roundness helps me understand the general shape of things. I'll use these as a horn. Maybe like you could use a cylinder too or something like that, but I'm trying to go fast because this is not the part that takes the most time. So what do we do? SX, make it a little longer like that. Maybe even do another one, Shift D, rotate like that. There's the horns. And then maybe another one for the ear like this. I don't know, there's the ear. And these, of course, need to be moved over here. So the ear would be here. Maybe the two horns would be back like this. I don't know. This would be the ear. And the ear would be like SY, like squish flat like that. Maybe rotate it like this. There's the ear. Okay. Cool. Okay. One thing I'm noticing is like it feels like the legs are going like out, you know, like a lizard, versus like I need to kind of be able to come forward like this. I need to have kind of an E. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of liberty with this a little bit. Not in my orthographic views, just to kind of move things a little bit so that the knees can kind of come forward a little bit. If I were to imagine like how this would walk, I don't know. It is difficult to imagine. And my feet definitely need to be more rotated. R to rotate, moving it like this. There we go. I don't know. Okay. Here we go. So you can spend more time, you can spend as much time on this as you want, and you can use as many shapes as you want, because now the next step is going to be, we're going to join all these together and do a remesh, which is going to kind of combine them all into one sculptable mesh. So like if you wanted to, you know, do a little bit more of the chest here, you know, like I could Shift D duplicate, and things can overlap, you know, as much as you want. Like we could kind of have a little bit more lump here, and like maybe instead of like a big round thing, maybe I do like a couple smaller things, but I'm actually pretty okay with where this is at right now. So let's, you know, spend more time on it if you want, but once you're ready. So this is another thing that's like, once you kind of get to this point, you know, you're sort of at the point of no return. So maybe this is another place that you would want to like save a copy and say like, okay, this is pre-remesh or whatever. So now the goal is to get this into one thing that we can kind of sculpt and make a little bit fancier. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do, I am going to do one more thing. I am going to add like just fatty fingers real quick. I'm just going to give him 3 fingers. So I'm going to take this arm here, I'm going to Shift D, scale this way down, or rotate this like, it's going to have 3 fingers. Shift D here, rotate, scale that up, Shift D, rotate. Just so that we can, you know, have it actually doing something. Okay, and the thumb is going to go here. These two, and we're going to go down here like this. Yeah, just as a starting place. And you know, you can get the more work you do now to try to get this the way you want, the less work you're going to have to do with sculpting. So because I have this set up very crudely, I'm going to need to do a lot more work with the sculpting. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. Okay, so now, step 1. A, to select all of these, and we're going to join them together with the J key, or Control J. Nope. Oh, we need to apply the modifier. Apply our mirror modifiers first, actually. So with all selected, we can go Object, Apply, and it's Visual Geometry to Mesh. So what this is going to do, what this does is it applies all the modifiers and kind of bakes it into your mesh. I think we talked about the term baking in the 3D Basics class, but baking is sort of like making something permanent. So like when you bake a cake, you have all the ingredients, and then once you put it in the oven and it turns into a cake, like you can't like undo that. You know, it's baked, it's done, it's a cake now. So Visual Geometry to Mesh. If I click that, now we have all the, oh yes, so it did, you know, the mirror modifier is applied, but it is still like still considered to be one object like this, right click. But that's fine, that's what we need. So A to select all, now we can Control J to join these all together. And now this is one object, and you can see here behind my head, it's sphere 004. And I'll just rename this to Ogre Mesh. Mech, sure. Mesh. Okay. Oh yeah, it was behind my head. You didn't get the joke. All right. Okay, that's step 1. So, you know, we can tab edit this, and you could even like sculpt this right now if you wanted to, but each of these spheres, let me just make sure I undo that. Each of these spheres was like is still a separate entity. So like if I go inside here, you can see it like all of these shapes are still like overlapping and clipping is what the term is when 3D shapes go through each other. They're all still clipping. So what's really handy, if we're in sculpt mode actually with the Ogre Mesh selected, is we can remesh this, and it's going to convert all of these. It's going to just basically make a new mesh based on the outside of this. So you've got your remesh, and definitely this is a good point to save. If you haven't saved it already, do a little Control S. I'm going to do it right now, because remesh and dynamic topology is something that is hardware intensive on your computer, and it can crash, and it has crashed for many a person. So remesh, you have voxel size and adaptivity. I don't know what numbers are good for this right now, so I'm just going to hit the remesh button with these default values and see what happens. Boom, remesh. Okay. let's analyze what happened. It has converted the outside of this into, new shapes. And in my opinion, didn't do a super great job. But one thing that's happened is now you can see like where the all of your shapes connected. Or where your shapes overlapped, it's now connected. And if I go inside, we can see that it's like totally hollow now. There's no longer any clipping. I can see all the way down the arm. If we're inside here. So it's done the thing. So now we have one mesh that we can, kind of. The other thing I'll say is, or you may have noticed, sorry, let me go back to Sculpt mode. So we've got all of these, you can see all the polygons very clearly here. And if I do a remesh like this, you can still see you can see where the polygons were. And I think this is the #1 mistake that I see, and I am calling it a mistake, is that they'll do a remesh and they'll just leave it like this. And I can be like, you remesh, and I can see exactly where all your polygons were. I mean, one of the easiest things you can do is take your smooth tool, which I believe is if you just hold the shift key, right? If I go F to bring this up. Yeah, S is the smooth tool, and just like do a smooth like this, and it'll just take those out right away. Like make it really big and just like like smooth it out just a little bit, and it already looks like 100 times better. So like don't forget to smooth it out. You could also do like you could do a subdivision surface modifier and do that visual geometry to mesh if you really want to, but you can fix it with sculpting as well. Let me actually undo these a little bit, because this is another time where undid one too many. Let's do a remesh. Another time where you probably wanted to continue to do things symmetrically. So I encourage, before you start sculpting, like once you do the remesh, turn on sculpting symmetry. So turn it on in the X like this. So any smoothing that you do over here, it's gonna. Why isn't that working? Hold on. Interesting. A mystery. Oh, Is it because, let me go back into object mode, let me do global axis like this. Let me do apply. Should I do apply all transforms? I think that's the key. So for whatever reason, when I joined all this together, this was the location of everything. Like it was rotated. Oh, you know what? This was probably the location of like the tummy bit. So what you should probably do is join everything together, and then also, so like apply visual geometry to mesh, join everything together. Let's do an object apply all transforms. So you can see it resets all. Oops, this is still apply all transforms. There we go. So that it's like 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1. And now I bet if we do sculpt like this, sculpt mode, then do a remesh. Yes, now the sculpting will be mirrored on the other side. Okay. Okay, but notice something happened. I got a webbed ear. And so I believe, let me undo the remesh. The distance that you are in the viewport affects the quality of the remesh. Let me try it again here. Oh no. So here's what you can do. So like if you find that there's some weird artifacting and stuff like this, we can decrease the voxel size. Let me undo that. If we go to remesh, and if we go down, so it's if you hover over voxel size here, size of the voxel in object space used for volume evaluation, lower values preserve finer details. So if we're at 0.1, if I go down, we can go to like maybe 0.07. If you crank this down to like 0.001, that's what's going to crash your computer. So let's do a remesh. There we go. And you can see that now, it's the voxels, or aka the polygons, are a little smaller now, the size of 0.07 meters in this world space, and it's preserved a little bit more of the detail in my like ears and stuff like that. So I've got symmetrical symmetry turned on. And now I'm just gonna make a few adjustments. So first is gonna be, so don't forget with your sculpting tools, we're in sculpt mode. F, if you tap F, you can make your brush bigger or smaller. F, whoops, that was G, didn't want that. F, smaller. There's keyboard shortcuts for this. V is draw, that's just like the default one. And then if you hold down Shift, it's smooth. You can also change the strength of your brush up here. So I'm just gonna do like some light smoothing, just sort of kind of blend some of these things together. I'm also gonna go tab into edit mode and I'm gonna right click, whoops, sorry. I wanna go back to object mode. I'm gonna right click shade smooth like this. And I'll go back to sculpt mode and I'm just gonna, shift, smooth some of these things out. Start to kind of make it look a little bit less goofy. So like here, this is what I was talking about before. Like even though we have a shade smooth on, I can still see all of these little squares here where the old polygons were. So just hold down the Shift key and just smooth this out a little bit. Got a little belly button. That actually worked out nicely. F, and then just kind of smooth these out. Just kind of making things look a little bit nicer here. Holding down the Shift key to do smoothing like this. Already looking so much nicer. Around the neck, The neck will need some attention and the face will definitely need some attention. But I'm just sort of getting the limbs right. Yeah, it's feeling pretty good actually. Click, 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 just gentle clicks, nothing too exciting. Okay, yeah, so you can see along the back here, we've got all these ridges here along the back. Just doing so, I'm holding on the Shift key and doing, or you can, use the smooth tool, obviously, if you want to do that. I'm gonna leave the horns and stuff as it is. I'm gonna give the face some attention now. So I'm still doing in the X direction like this. Now, here's a reminder. One thing you can do, which might not be a bad idea, is you've got your overlays up here when you're sculpting. You can turn on the wireframe to always be visible like this. And this will kind of give you a little bit of a better clue of what you have to work with. So for example, if I want to kind of make the chin a little bit more pronounced, I need to sort of pull this out a little bit. So if I make this a little bit bigger, and remember that with sculpting, you only have which polygons are available, or sorry, you only have the vertices. Sculpting just moves the position of vertices by default. It's just moving it. So like the more you move it, the more stretched out it's going to make the polygons. So like if I want to make this like a really big chin, you can see that these like start to get really stretched out, which could be a problem. I think I've set it up where it's actually not that big of a deal, but let's say you wanted to add some like really fine details, like I don't know, they've got a scar or something like that. What you can do is you can turn on dynamic topology. And so when you turn on dynamic topology, if you enable that, it says warning, dynamic topology went up, okay, that's fine, hit okay. This will like dynamically change the thing based on how far away you are in your viewport to add more detail. So for example, let me F to scale this down. So let's say I want to add, I don't know, just like a big mole or something. When I click, you can see if I click, it made a bunch more triangles. And like, so as I like paint on here, you can sort of see that it's adding new edges, it's adding more detail. Undo that. And it's relative to how far away you are. So if I zoom way in, you're like, oh yeah, I want to get like really close like this. And I'm gonna add a little like mole on his cheek. Now it's gonna it's adding much smaller polygons because I've zoomed in closer. So that's what dynamic topology is. And so when I zoom out, you can see there's like kind of a little cluster of polygons there. So that's what dynamic topology does. So my recommendation is do as much as you can without dynamic topology, and then as you want to add more details, then you can turn on dynamic topology. All right, so we need a nose. Dynamic topology is off again, so I'm gonna start to kind of sculpt out a little bit of nose like this. But like the nose is actually a good example of when we probably want a little bit more detail. So I am going to turn it on right now. I'm not going to get too close because I just am sort of getting the general whoops, dynamic topology, and I forgot to hit OK. Dynamic topology, yeah, give us a little bit more nose to work with. You know, we want kind of a schnoz. Let's see, how do you do that? Oh, if you do, yeah, if you hold down the control key, it's the inverse of whatever tool you're using. So I'm going to get in close. And actually now I'm going to turn off dynamic topology because I think I got enough to work with there. So I'm going to kind of cinch in the nose a little bit, bring out this bit a little bit, you know. There you go. And maybe I'm going to hold down the control key, and we do need dynamic topology just to get like some eye sockets a little bit. Oh, dynamic topology, then okay. There we go. Give us some eye sockets a little bit. The other thing that you usually, so like, it's okay to have separate pieces. Oh man, I actually meant to talk about this. It's okay. It's definitely okay to have separate pieces. Like it doesn't all have to be, you know, one solid mesh. In fact, like a lot of times you'll have like at least a couple of different pieces. So like for example, right now I want eyeballs. So I'm gonna go, sorry, back to object mode, and I'm just gonna add an eyeball. So, whoops, I'm in object mode. Oh, I still have my wireframe on. It's throwing me off a little bit. I'm gonna turn off wireframe like that. Shift A, I'm gonna add just a UV sphere like this. And I'm gonna go, let's see, let's kind of move it into place here. Just to kind of get it in there. 3. And add a mirror modifier like this. Add a modifier mirror on the x-axis. Sure, and we can mirror ogre mesh too, just to give us a little bit of a reference while we're sculpting. And I'm also going to go RX90 like that, so that it's sort of like facing forward. Okay, back to here, sculpting. I can turn, I'll turn my wireframe back on just so I can kind of see. And back to it. So I'm holding down the control key, let's move these out. And let's kind of bring this back out, F to make it a little larger. Just kind of bring the outside like this. Control to bring it in like that. Maybe I do need to adjust the position a little bit of the eyes. Let me click the sphere. Let's go back into object mode. Sorry, sphere selected. Right now he looks a little bit crazed, but that's fine. Okay, so yeah, just start to add detail. So I do want to just acknowledge one other thing that I kind of forgot to talk about with the modeling method. So let me pause real quick. Okay, so let me just double click this, and these are going to be ogre eyes. I'm going to hide these real quick. Off, 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 off. Let me turn on this is model. This is just like dude. Okay. Let's say your character was abstract, not a human, but let's say, you know, they were, for example, the person that this is for knows who this is for. Let's say you had like a person that was a piece of popcorn, and then they had like noodles for arms. You can leave these as separate objects. So like you could do, you know, let's say this is your piece of popcorn, and then you know, whoops, what am I doing? Shift A, you know, and then this is your noodle, your macaroni noodle. You tab to edit this, and you do X-ray select, and you go do your top-down view. And you delete half of these like this. Delete faces. And this is your macaroni arm. X-ray select off. S. And then mirror modifier. And mirror on this. Okay. This is fine. You don't need to like join things together. In fact, like if you have parts that you want to kind of move independently like this, you should just leave them as separate parts. Like the other thing that happen, like especially if you're designing for games or whatever, like clothes will be a separate part, and like weapons are a separate thing, but they will continue to kind of move with the armature. When we are like finishing up your character, we'll cover that. We'll cover like connecting things to an armature so that they can move around and stuff like that. The other thing that we're going to talk about next week specifically is clothes and hair. So right now, or so this week, the goal for your character assignment is to get like the shape of the body, get a pretty good start on the shape of the body. Whether you're using the modeling method to just kind of use extrude and kind of make things that way and then adjusting after the fact, or if you're using the sculpt method like this to do like a little bit more of a detailed character, make that decision and, you know, start just working things out. And have in mind that next week we're going to be adding hair and clothes. So like think about if your character is going to have like sort of like a cartoony solid piece of hair, or if you're actually going to have like, you know, a flow that you can like comb or stuff like that. Or maybe if it's just like fur or fuzz that goes around the body, or maybe it's just something totally different. Because all those things are possible, and there's a couple of different methods to do it. Okay, so that's what you need to be working on for your character assignment. You also have a quick model this week, and I just got to double check my phone and remind myself what it is. Yes, bicycle. So when you need a break from working on your character, take 15 minutes, set a timer on your phone, and see how far you can get modeling a bike. So some unique challenges to a bike, you know, like you probably need a Taurus or two, but how would you do the spokes around the bike? You know, what different pieces would you use to make the frame? Would you have just a few cylinders? Would you connect it together into one piece so it's easier to move? Like, so you might be extruding and bridging. Don't forget about, you know, the bridging things. So here's a quick reminder. Let me just Shift A, you know, add a cube like this. So let's say you extrude here like this. Whoops, 3 for face select. You extrude a couple times, like maybe this is your bike frame, and then it goes down like this a couple times, and then this extrudes here, and then this rotates. But it's like, well, how do I bridge these two? You can select 2 faces, and you can do right click and bridge faces like this. And then you've got a loop. So like maybe that's how you want to make your bike frame. Maybe you want a subdivision surface modifier. Check out some of your other modifiers. Look at generate. You might want like an array of things. See if you can figure out how to use an array that like will go in a circle for the spokes. So you only have to model one spoke and then it goes in a circle or something like that. So experiment with it a little bit, but again, don't spend more than 15 minutes on it. But this is just sort of practice for starting stuff. So that'll be due. Your quick model will be due before we Zoom next week. Next week we'll have a Zoom. We'll kind of talk about how your character models are going so far. We'll just sort of quickly look at your character, or we'll quickly look at your quick models together and just sort of process a little bit. We'll do a little bit of show and tell, and we'll answer questions about how your character model is going so far. That's all for today. I'm at 58 minutes and 47 seconds. I think that's a good place to stop. Yeah, we'll see you next time.